Aberdeen's
Becca wants to say
Aberdeen's
something again.
Aberdeen's late model feature race was really boring. I mean, it was really bad.
Worst late model
So-
race ever.
Wait,
Worst
was
one
it
ever.
more worse than the Grand Rapids one?
It was
Yes.
worse than the Grand Rapids one.
Yep, it was worse.
Really?
Yep.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode number 27 of season 2. We're back from a very busy, long holiday weekend. Hope everyone enjoyed the Labor Day holiday. We're back to break down all the racing we saw, and it was a lot. With myself, Mason, along with Jessup, Becca, and Mr. Collinsworth. This week is Senor John Breckel. Glad to see you all made it back home safely from a very busy weekend. And before we get into all the action, we want to thank our presenting sponsor, Hitch Harness, headlined by Tyler Hall out of Fertile, Minnesota, who I believe took this last weekend off of racing, so must be spending time with the family. Encourage you to head over to hitchharness.com to check out all the products they have, specializing in their main product with receiver hitch storage with the hitch harness. You can check out the chassis dollies they have for the racer, as well as pole bar brackets, various other products on their website that you can check out as they are continually adding. So thank you so much, Tyler, for the support of the podcast. Go get the Facebook page like and go check out the website. Thanks again, Tyler. So the lineup is slightly shifted from last week. I don't know if I have it totally correct, but John is still on the pole, followed by Jessup. And then I have moved up into third, and Becca is tail of the field for this episode. So kicking things off with John Breckel, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good, Mason. It was a busy but really fun weekend. So we all had a great time, the four of us, as we were together this past week for at least one race night, but together for 2 nights. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. As you guys got to see, we got the podcast from Mason's Castle on Wednesday last week. So that was kind of a good time. And it was a very interesting podcast because we were all together for the first time ever on a podcast. And otherwise from that, we're back to our normal settings this week as we're now right in the heart of invitational season, and I'm really excited for this weekend as well. It's one of my favorite weekends upcoming here with several specials happening around WISSOTA and IMCA country.
Excellent. Yeah, that was a crazy episode we had last week. Kind of a spur of the moment, kind of getting everything all hodgepodge together, but we made it through. So, Jessup, how are you doing today, sir?
Good, Mason. We're doing good. We didn't hit anything else on our way back, or we didn't get hit as well. But it was a good trip back home.
Believe me, this weekend, even though I think the Pelkeys took care of all of the wildlife encounters for the weekend, although I got very close on 2 other nights. Pelkeys were in the car for one of them. That was not great.
I laughed.
It's
was
fun
like,
to
this
laugh
is
after the
going
fact.
down again.
And
I
Becca screamed.
screamed.
We're not
I
surprised.
was like, ah!
Becca screamed, and I was like, "Oh no!"
Justin's like, oh, this isn't
Oh, this
happened the
seems
night
familiar,
before.
John. This seems familiar.
Oh my goodness. Maybe Mason, and then you almost hit when Mason leaving Aberdeen on Saturday.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
it's
Mason's no.
I was just saying maybe it's
John.
Mason that the deer are coming after.
John, he's no longer Rain Man. He's Deer Man.
Yes.
I'd rather be
So
Rain Man. I would rather be Rain Man.
You can't pick these things, Mason. They pick you.
Yeah, thankfully we were safe from all the other wildlife encounters. And actually, coming back from Alexandria, there was a kitty on the road that was scurrying across. And I'm just like, for goodness sakes, please, animals, stay off the roads. I beg of you.
But that didn't stop Mason from doing what he had to do.
Oh, no, the cat made it.
But the kitty did it.
Well,
Mason, were you Were you up, Mason, when we were telling Jessup's mom and Kurt about our joking of you during the race season?
I think I was, because I think Jessup's mom kind of said it best throughout when we were staying at Jessup's family this weekend. I think she said, like, you guys are really good friends, but also it's almost like you guys are just like family, like brothers and sisters, with how much grief you give each other.
It is very true. It truly is true. With how much crap we give each other, we are basically like family.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Becca, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. We got home a couple hours ago. It's been a crazy weekend. I've been looking forward to podcasting together as a group for a long, long time, and I didn't realize how incredibly distracting it would be in person. So I'm glad to be back on Zoom. I know this probably isn't the most like stimulating thing to watch in regards to podcasting, but I'm glad to be back on Zoom to be a little more focused on what everything is going on. But yeah, we got back a couple hours ago. Didn't realize how, oh gosh, our weeds are out of control. So I did a little bit of weeding and watched some Super Nationals because day one officially kicked off today. So I watched some Super Nationals racing action while I did some weeding, did laundry, vacuumed, put the dishes away, unpacked, all sorts of stuff. And then I did a fantasy football draft, hence why I'm wearing this, because football season is about to start any day now too. And yeah, this is one of my favorite weeks of the year because Super Nationals, as I mentioned, has kicked off, and it's been super fun to watch and play fantasy racing with, and it's been great racing so far. And a lot of our North Dakota and Midwest locals have gone down, so it's fun to watch them, support them, and cheer for them during this really big week of racing down in Iowa.
Yeah, and speaking of fantasy, obviously, if you're in fantasy for my Race Pass and Boone, be sure to make your picks each day. It's kind of fun to see how you do with, I think, 500 to 600 people picking. But
That's
also, first reminder, if you want to get involved in our game picks for the NFL, that league is open. I've posted the picture with the password and group ID on Facebook. I will be sending that out via Snapchat over the next 2 days. First game kicks off Thursday, so if you want to get in, it's a $5 buy-in. We're going to have cash prizes for the top three, including some TPP merchandise that we're going to get ironed out hopefully in the next few weeks and throughout the off-season. So that way you're all geared up going into the winter and the off-season. So just a kind of a little bit of teaser of what we got cooking up.
What? Nobody wants my irrelevant t-shirts?
Well, hey, maybe we could put up an irrelevant t-shirt for the guy that finishes last. Maybe we'll do that.
We could.
A signed TPP irrelevant t-shirt.
That's actually, it would be fitting because the last pick of the draft in the NFL is Mr. Irrelevant. So maybe the last place person could get an irrelevant shirt. I like this.
Yes.
Mason, make a note of that so you don't forget.
Oh, yeah, I should make a note of that. We'll have to judge what's like the most irrelevant shirt that you can come up with, Jessup.
Yes.
Yeah, figure out what is your most irrelevant shirt, Jessup, and we will get that cooking for the last place person in our Pick'em's Fantasy League. Again,
It is a size medium.
So it's Becca sized.
Yes.
Excellent. So, well, great to hear that you all are doing well. Of course, I'm doing all right as well. Coming off a 4-day stretch, it's supposed to be 5, but we'll kind of get into the details of all those shenanigans that kind of played out. So we'll get right into our episode with the official waving and dropping of the green flag and start episode 27 with who or what are we repping. I'll go to Becca to start this week. Who or what are you repping, Becca?
This week, because it is Super Nationals week, I am repping someone who I think will be someone to be. Hang on, holy, stop it! So
she's repping somebody that might be someone that might do something that in some area.
Sounds like one of our current political leaders.
Yep.
Stop it! No, we just got back, and our kitty cat Oli has really missed us. So he's super just like, I want to snuggle, and now he wants to play, and so it was a little bit distracting. Anyways.
The pieces are in place.
You too, Mason? Yeah,
yep.
Mine's the same way right now. So mine is literally right behind the computer, and he's probably going to walk in front of me eventually sometime throughout this night. But anyway, tonight I am repping someone who I think will be a big threat to win the big dance later this week. I am repping Tim Ward. He was our 2023 Dakota Classic Modified Tour champion. He also picked up the big win at the Harris Clash, and he picked up a Prelude win back on September 2nd, just days before the Super Nationals started. So he's been having a fantastic season thus far, but this is my pick to be right up there battling for the win this year for the big dance at the Super Nationals, Tim Ward. And it's a really cool shirt. Kind of got that retro throwback feel to it. And then on the back.
Ooh, that is nice. Nice and simple.
And fun fact, Dale Earnhardt Jr. also owns this shirt. There's a photo of him on Twitter with it. So,
Ooh,
yeah.
that's pretty neat. That is pretty cool.
Sweet. Well, that's an awesome shirt to kick things off. We'll go up to Jessup with who or what are you repping?
I am repping a shirt, Mason, of a person who is irrelevant, literally, because I cannot find much, if anything, on them other than their old YouTube page. So tonight I'm representing. Oh my God, it's like a small earthquake. TC, Too Cool McCain Racing, 88M. And he is a hobby stock driver out of Downs, Kansas. And that's literally about all that there is to it. Kind of cool front, different. You don't see a lot of red shirts anymore. And then on the back, couple cars. Looks all right. Their YouTube page basically is 7 videos of their in-car footage from 8 years ago, and that's it. That's all I know. He no longer exists in the racing world.
Definitely an irrelevant shirt because
Yes.
don't recognize that name at all. So cool. Nice to go down the irrelevant trail once again. Before I get to a potential history lesson, I'll go with who or what I'm repping. I got a new hat. Of course, we were all at the 51st annual Silver 1000 in Proctor, Minnesota. So I had to get some gear for that and got a new hat, and actually a really nice looking hat with the emblem and the gold and the nice little trophies that they give out to the top 3 in the late models. Do they give them out in the modifieds too?
Not sure.
Well, anyway, they had some pretty cool like cup trophies, and those are.
I'm sure they do, but
yeah, they're nice to add to the trophy case, and so that's the hat. The shirt is a shirt that I was going to be repping at the Madison Speedway tonight on Labor Day. Unfortunately, they had to cancel due to heat, and I was on my way there, but was going to rep the 6th star of Brian Hobbin. He is out of the Appleton, Minnesota area, races in WISSOTA Modified, and he claimed a couple of track championships this year. First championship he got was at the Fiesta City Speedway, and with this was going to be the championship night for Madison Speedway, and he was the points leader going into tonight, and he got the track championship there as well. So a couple track championships for the 6th star, and he's going to be gearing up for some of the year-end invitationals within the area as well. So repping Brian Hobbin in the 6th star, which leads to Mr. John Breckel. Who or what are you repping?
Oh, I'm repping the history lesson. So I'm taking the students back down memory lane. So students, by that I mean the Pelkeys and Mason. So we're going to go to one of the specials that's happening this upcoming weekend. And we are repping last year's 16th annual John Seitz Memorial t-shirt from the Rivers Cities Speedway. So who can tell me who was the 2021, because again, that's the winner on the back, champion of the John Seitz Memorial, and how many late models were in attendance that year?
AJ Dean.
We're making this a little bit more difficult.
Well, this should be an easy answer for someone. Because weren't they repping the shirt last week?
Becca.
I'm looking it up.
Mason, Mason.
There's a caution for cheating.
Oh, Mason. Mason. This is a caution on you. You have been relegated to the rear end of the field.
I'm going to say
Justin-
AJ Demo.
Yes.
That's right.
Dang it. I was off one year.
And I'm going to say
Yes.
53 late models.
There was. Go ahead, Becca.
Aaron Turnbull won in 2019 and 2020.
I was off a year. Dang it.
Yes.
To the back, Mason goes. Becca,
Yes.
even though she was cheating under caution. So we'll talk about relegation of positions.
So that
I
was
was
the
gonna
year
say-
that AJ Demo lapped pretty much almost the entire field.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. He was on a tear that year. He lapped up basically to Brad Sang and Sick because there was some contact across the start finish line, and I believe Brad spun and AJ was right behind him. And yeah, so but AJ ended up winning that Sites Memorial. Interesting fact, I don't think AJ has finished outside the top 3 in the Sites Memorial features. I think he's never had a finish outside of there. Last year he actually kind of struggled a little bit and still finished in the second position. So I mean that was not it wasn't normal to see him have to run a consi, not make it out of his heat race, and then kind of struggle a little bit all week, and then came on really strong at the end of that race. And for him to struggle and still finish second, that's something to say a lot about AJ and how he's got Grand Forks figured out for the sites. But it was AJ Demo who was your winner, 47 late models, by the way. Don Shaw was in second, who was your winner last year, and Cole Searing was in third. So those were the top 3 that year, and I don't know what Becca's doing because she's a little bit disorganized over there. So
Being
who can
attacked.
tell me then with the results and with what was happening on here as well? So who picked up the street stock feature win that year at the Sites Memorial?
This is your realm, Mason.
Justin Vogel.
Yes, Justin Vogel won over Ryan Johnson, Aaron Blacklance, Tucker Peterson, and very interesting story in here, Johnny Carter. Johnny was not there on Friday, started tail end of the consi on Saturday, won the consi, and started back in 17th and got to 5th. And there was one caution in that race to start off the race, and that was it. Otherwise, from that, they went 25 laps green, and Johnny finished top 5. Okay, Midwest Mods. Who was your Midwest Mod feature winner? Becca.
Preston Carr.
Yes, Becca has done her research on her phone. It is Preston Carr who won the Midwest Modifieds. Matt Scow was in second, Jason Halverson in third, Jory Berg in fourth, and Brock Grunwald rounded out your top 5 in your Midwest Modifieds. And then the final class is, who was the winner of the Modified A main event?
Was Ryan
TPO.
Gerke winning that year?
What did you say, Jessup?
I'm going to say TPO.
Yes, Jessup is correct. It was TPO. Ryan Gerke did not win actually in 2021. He won in 2022.
Oh, okay.
So Tyler Peterson, Mike Stearns, Dale Ames, Zach Johnson, and Aaron Blacklance were your top 5. Interesting fact, Mods ran a complete show on Saturday. So they were the only class to run a complete show on that Saturday. Otherwise, everybody else ran heats Friday and then features on Saturday. And then finally, who won the sprints for the Sites Memorial back in 2021? Yes, Becca, who was it?
Austin Pierce.
Yes.
I was going to say
Austin
it
beat-
wasn't Dobmeyer, so
No, Austin and Dahlmeyer had a really good battle up front with Austin coming out on top. Dahlmeyer was in second, Mullen was in third, Hastings was fourth, and Nygaard was in 5th. So those were your drivers that ended up having some really good races at the Sites Memorial.
Why does Jessup have a caution?
there's some illegal activity taking place in this history lesson. Someone has their phone out.
They're cheating. It's like it's not an open book exam.
It's not in the rules that says
This
I can't.
is this
That's a
is
good point.
gonna be
This is
this
true.
is gonna be an early. Well, okay, fine. We'll just do this then. If Becca's gonna run an illegal setup, tech has been found that Becca's illegal. You have been DQ'd for the night. Go to the pits.
This is because of questionable conduct.
Becca's been disqualified due to cause.
No.
Well, Becca, I feel bad for you, but it's okay.
No.
It'll go on. But no, this weekend is the Sites Memorial over at the River City Speedway in Grand Forks, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really good show overall with 3 days of racing action starting on Thursday. Then it goes Friday and Saturday this weekend. So it'll be a good time over in Grand Forks for the Sites Memorial, and I'll be taking it all 3 nights.
Yeah, and I was talking with several drivers this weekend down in Aberdeen, and there's a lot of new faces that might be making their appearance at the John Sykes Memorial this year. So that'll be kind of nice to see a new group of drivers kind of making their way up to Grand Forks.
Yeah, a lot of Midwest mod guys and street stock guys, it sounds like, that are coming up, along with the late model drivers that typically come up. And then they
Super
also
stock.
added super stocks this year to the lineup. So some of the mod guys are also going to come with the super stock guys, because some of those guys travel together to, to various tracks. And so a lot of these super stock guys are actually coming up. Sounds like Trevor Nelson, who is your defending WISSOTA 100 champion, as well as third in national points right now, sounds like he's coming up. And Jeremy North is going to be coming with him, who Jeremy won the Big Buck Nationals here this past Saturday night. So that'll be kind of exciting to see from a super stock perspective how many super stocks they get, as they have been added to the size memorial this year as part of the classes, because of the fact that John Seitz was actually one of the drivers that started in one of his careers in a super stock, and he was a very successful driver in the super stocks as well over there from the Bemidji area.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun weekend of racing coming up just in a few short days. And so going to be exciting to see who all shows up there. So that'll do it for who or what we're repping. And we'll go right into our track pack report and start off with the Silver 1000 in Proctor, where all four of us got to take that in. And it's one of Jessup's favorite races, or not the favorite race that he likes to go to and watch. So I'll kind of kick things off with Jessup and Becca. What were your takeaways from the Silver 1000 this year?
It was expensive for us.
I will say to preface,
true.
we saw some of the worst racing ever.
Yes,
Especially in several classes. I mean, it was the worst features ever.
How was it expensive?
Well,
Becca,
we hit a deer.
Becca, let's see. You got
Getting there.
rear-ended.
Okay, I didn't realize that was all being included again. We are recapping that again.
We haven't recapped it yet.
Got it. All right.
Back to the Silver 1000. So, Jessup, what were your takeaways from the Silver 1000 other than being an expensive start before we even got to the track?
There were a lot of cars, Mason. Actually, I thought it was a really good night overall. The track held up. It was a very interesting track when we did our walkabout on the track later that night. Definitely some unique characteristics that you really wouldn't expect, like random kind of grooves or lips coming out of the corners and going the full length of a back stretch or the front stretch. A little flaky section up in one, which was interesting. But overall, good track. Modified feature, I thought was really good.
Not according to everyone?
Well, one of my
One person.
former reffing friends came up to us and had a meltdown over the fact that he didn't believe that it was a quality race, and stated that it was the worst race ever, even though there was like a 5-car battle for second. And he couldn't understand how Dan Ebert could lead every single lap, and that it was an absolute atrocity before he walked off to see if he could get a refund.
This is true.
True story.
This is a true story.
True.
We were all there
Very,
when
very
this
true.
happened.
Yeah. And I was like, no.
Yes.
No.
It was very
This
true.
was a good race.
It
Granted,
was.
Dan Ebert kind of did walk away with it. I think if there would have been a restart at the very end, he wasn't very good on the restarts, but once he got into his rhythm, he just pulled away. But it was a fantastic battle for, like, as Mason said, second through fifth, sixth. It was great racing, 2, 3 wide racing. It was a great race. Despite Dan Ebert kind of walking away with it, that's definitely by far not the worst modified race I've seen this year.
It was
No,
interesting.
there was a ton of passing on that one too, and side-by-side battles, and they used the whole track. I mean, they were running all over the track, so the track itself was in great shape for that race as well.
So here's a fun question. Who had a nicer rig? Dan Ebert or Pat Dorr?
Oh boy.
Which night?
Oh,
The first night, because Dan Ebert wasn't there the second night.
Well, did Pat Dorr have that same semi truck
I'm
first
pretty
night?
sure he did.
Okay, I didn't see it the first night, but I definitely saw it the second night.
but Pat's had that for years, hasn't he?
No, well,
Well,
Pat
John
might
would
have
Because-
know.
Pat might have used his personal work truck the second night, which let me just say, if you get to see Pat Door's truck and trailer outfit, it's impressive.
Yeah.
The
And
reason why I bring that up, Jessup, sorry I interrupted you too,
Yep.
but the reason why I bring that up is because the first year that Pat Dorr ever came to Jamestown for the Stampede, back right around the 2009, 2010 era, he had that semi rig.
this
The
wouldn't
one
be
that
it
rides
because
low
this
to the
thing,
ground.
So it was like the semi trailer in the back, right?
Yep.
It had the 11 on the back corner of it,
Yep.
and then you had the semi in front.
This is a little different than what he had in Grand Rapids. He had his personal work truck up there, and my gosh, was that thing pretty. And I am
Oh,
not
really?
I am not a huge expert or follower of truck and tractors and trailer deals. And yeah, you could definitely show that thing up in any car show.
Yeah. That thing was, I don't want to even
Immaculate.
think about how much that thing
Mm.
Pretty
costs.
cool though.
It was really cool. Anyways, let's see. Fun facts. You guys got to see why Daryl Nelson's known as the Hermantown Hammer, as he walked away after getting past Harry Hansen about the 10-lap mark of
Mhm.
the late model feature. And the late model feature was pretty good. It was really just, again, a battle for second, as that pretty much went. I don't know if it had a caution. Did it have a caution? I think it had one.
One, and I think like the last 25 or so laps were at green flag.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was a very long run to the finish, and they definitely could have used a caution, but hats off to Daryl once again. He didn't race there that much this year, and to come back to a track that you've been very dominant and not race all year and then go out and put a butt whooping on everyone is very impressive. But it was a strong field of late models. I think they had, was it 34 or 36?
Oh no, they had 39 late models.
39. So 39, it's another large field of late models. A fun fact about the modifieds, that is the lowest car count that they've had since 2013.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they've had, and that's not a bad thing. 30 is nothing to be like, oh, that's a bad car count, especially in today's time of modifieds for WISSOTA. There's not a huge number of them out there right now, but it's healthier than it was last year, but they drew a little less this year.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree. Like, this is my first full night of racing. The previous time I was there was it rained out, but I really like the scenery around Halvor Speedway. I think the track is really cool. We got to sit in the tailgating area. Jessup's family has a tailgating spot, so really cool setup with all the tailgating areas kind of right up next to the track, so you can see everything. Can kind of venture onto many different spots around the track and have a great vantage point. So it was fun to kind of walk around and kind of see all sides of the racetrack.
Yep.
Agreed.
We also had
Yeah.
a cool visitor that night.
Oh yeah,
We-
go ahead. Talk about
we
the
had,
visitor we had.
We were how would you say, graced with the opportunity to be in the presence of a late model legend, Leon Plank. And for any of our older listeners, they would know Leon for his many feats of excellence. He's won just about everything that there is for late models in the Midwest, and also on a national circuit as well. He won the Go for 50 a couple times, and I think he's won a World of Outlaw show as well. So it was pretty fun to have him be around us and just hear some stuff, that his insight and takes on things. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was definitely a nice treat. That's kind of been on our list. I know John and I had that on our list for a while. So definitely see why Jessup likes that event. And it's a really, really cool thing that they put together there. So definitely would make a trip back up there for another edition of the SO 1000. So congratulations once again to the winners in the modifieds. It was Dan Ebert. Second was Mike Anderson. And third, I just had it and lost it. Johnny Broking from 14th to third. So good run for Johnny. And then late models, Daryl Nelson, the Hermantown Hammer, followed by Harry Hansen in the 7 and Derek Vessel in the 16.
So, fun fact about Harry Hansen, the car that he was using was the second night out on it. So,
Oh,
I think he told me that was his third car of the year. They went from, what was it? Mars MB Customs to another MB Custom to Rocket XR1 chassis. So he definitely had some success this weekend using the new car, and it definitely looks like he's feeling comfortable right away with it.
yes, he is. Yeah, he was definitely quick
agreed.
all weekend.
Yep.
So that was Thursday in Proctor for the Silver 1000. And the three of us, I know John had to go, went west. We went to the Grand Rapids Speedway for the 29th annual WISSOTA Classic to see even more of the worst racing ever.
Yes.
And, that was
horrible.
my first time at the Grand Rapids Speedway. What were you guys' takeaways from Grand Rapids?
I just can't believe that we saw all this really terrible racing.
I will say, Grand Rapids is a kind of like a diamond in the rough. It's kind of off the beaten trail, and there are a lot of really cool and fascinating aspects to the grounds itself. When we pulled in, go ahead, Becca.
I was gonna say, I feel like I take a step back in time when I go to Grand Rapids. It's got an old school feel to it. It doesn't really have a lot of brand new top of the line amenities. I feel like it's a track that's stuck about 20, 30, 40 years in
That's
time.
a lot of long jump. 40 years ago is the early 80s.
Well, considering the bleachers that we sat in the pit side, they kind of bowed underneath me as I stepped up them, and I don't weigh a whole lot.
It's like Bemidji then.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
And it does have a smaller pit area. So when this racing special comes to town, they have like not one, but two, but three overflow areas practically, just to try to fit everyone in. So it's kind of cool. It's got that old school feel to it. And
Okay,
it was a really good weekend of racing out there. I liked it.
let me paint a better picture of the racetrack rather than Becca's. It's old. Now look, when you pull in, it's on a fairground. So that's kind of a nice throwback to what racing used to be, more directed towards, as it used to be mainly fairground racetracks, rather than privately owned racetracks, which are becoming more popular in today's society. When you pull in, depending where you can either pull up behind the buildings or you can pull over towards the pits, which is pretty cool because, as Becca was mentioning, for a smaller pit size that they have, it provides a lot of overflow parking, which in this case you could see without buying a pit pass some of the drivers and some of the cars and some of the rigs that were out there. So that's a pretty neat little aspect. The pit side bleachers give a really cool look back across the track towards the grandstands, which is pretty neat in itself, as well as just the general layout of the setting that you're in. One side, granted, I already said you're on the fairgrounds. The other side, about, I don't know, half the track's backed by giant pine trees,
Mhm.
and it looks really cool. And then if you look off to the other part of the track that's where all your pits are. And when you're looking out there, all you see is a sea of trailers and race cars. So a really cool atmosphere setup. So they had really good racing, I thought. And the controversial take of some people not liking the announcer, I enjoyed him. It was a breath of fresh air, and he was lively, and he made it interesting and entertaining, and he made every class interesting and entertaining. Whereas, let's just say a paid series announcer was very monotoned and very bland and boring.
Well, I think from the announcer perspective, I thought it was cool, especially me being my first time there. Like, I never knew what he was going to say next, so that kept me entertained in itself. And I think it's kind of good for like a new fan coming in, whether it's like a new person visiting or like a new race fan in general. I think that's almost like a nice transition to kind of get used to like racing. It's like, oh, well, this guy really gets into it. This is kind of fun.
Well,
Well,
and here's the other
yep.
thing too. I'm gonna give my perspective here because obviously, guys, I'm a complete outside view on this. From not attending the night in Grand Rapids, but also knowing a lot about the announcing piece of it. You have to have different announcing styles out there because if you have the same style across the board, it's going to get stagnant. And that's why, like at certain events and certain shows, it's nice to have two completely different styles together. For instance, you look at it right now, you have at several tracks, you have two announcers that are very different across the board. You also have at big events like Dakota Classic Modified Tour, you have Chad and Corey announcing two different styles for
Mhm.
sure. You have down right now in Super Nationals, you have Jerry and Ryan announcing two completely different styles as well, but they work good together because they're different styles. So that's one thing that that we've said for years, or that I've said for years too, is that if you're going to have an announcer announce with you, make sure that it's somebody with a little bit of a different style, but also do their own thing. So develop your own thing as an announcer style, and it's not a bad thing by any means, because if you're entertaining your audience and if your audience is in tune to what you're saying, it's not bad. If you get to become way too monotoned, or if you become somebody that is, how do I want to put this, is basically kind of boring, in other words, a little bit to listen to, then your show quality is just not there. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. So from my perspective, from an outsider, I like that announcers have different styles and different personalities.
I would say it this way. He did things, or he said certain phrases to make different classes exciting. For example, they talked about the Midwest Modifieds. He called them the MWM SmackDown, and I was highly amused by it. And it
He
made
also said it in a
made
wrestling tone,
Yep, and
which made it more exciting.
it made that class more entertaining for me. Then he said super stock. He introduced the super stocks differently. It was like super stocks, and we're driving home, and I'm still my dumb butt saying it the whole way back. And I'm like, I was highly amused by it. And there's nothing wrong with taking like things seriously, but at some point when you're reading through all of the sponsors and it's a very monotone, and then you start reading through the driver lineup and it's the same monotone, and then you go through the four wide and it's the same monotone, and then you get into the racing and it picks up a little bit and then it drops back down to monotone. I struggle with that because it may be very informational, but you're not getting that new race fan excited for that class. Whereas this perspective of announcing, it made every class interesting, and it put a lot of value on each of the class's sponsors as well. So I thought he was really a breath of fresh air that I could watch and be highly amused with.
I wish this guy would have introduced himself, and maybe he did, and we were sitting in the pit side and missed it, but he never did say who he was or what his name was. And that's unfortunate because I really enjoyed this individual as well. I thought he was entertaining to listen to. I didn't learn a whole lot of information. He wasn't like just dropping like tidbits of like, this is your track champion at this track, or he's won a past big race here or there.
I thought he
What
did
came
say
out of
some
his
of that,
mouth?
though.
Well, maybe he did, but
Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
I think I was more picking up on the different things that he was saying that were just like, well, that's new and that's different. I've never heard that before. Like when I think of super stocks, I think it's a negative connotation of this car class, but I think of that silly name that almost everyone just like name drops about them, right? I don't think I have to say it. I think everyone just knows what I'm saying when it's that name that everyone just calls them. It's a negative connotation of that car class. Whereas when he said the super stocks, I was like, oh, this is new. This is
gotta
different.
say it right. It was the super stocks.
Thank you.
Yeah, you gotta get some gravelly voice in
Sorry.
there. You can't be
To become more of the growler.
Sorry, yes. Yes. And I got annoyed because I saw some negative comments about his announcing on social media this past week, and I was like, I actually liked him. And maybe I should have gone on there and defended him, but they also this comments I also saw allegedly made it sound like he was drinking, and I'm like, I never picked up on that. He wasn't slurring his words, he wasn't stuttering, he wasn't stumbling, he was talking very coherently, and I think it was just a different cup of tea. And that's unfortunate that those people just don't appreciate a different form, a different style of announcing. And I don't always want to hear the same kind of announcing. I honestly, every time he talked, I listened because I didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth next. I loved it. It was great. And
It was entertaining.
It was a
Yes.
show within a show.
yes,
Yep.
And
I
see, that's
totally
great
that's
time
the
at Grand
part.
Rapids.
And honestly, but I have to expand on Becca's here a little bit too, because that kind of, when I saw those comments too, it kind of frustrated me. And the reason why it frustrated me directly is because there's so many people that sit in the grandstands or think they can do something way better than an individual. So they take to Facebook or they take to a social media platform and they complain about it. And it's almost like, guys, we are short on volunteers as it is across racetracks. We are basically trying to build the sport back up. And you go onto a social media platform or some type of platform and you complain and put assumptions down about comments, and it wrecks it. It kills it even more. So it's like, why can't we do positive reviews on stuff? Yes, criticism is always great across the board and that stuff too. But literally, the way that people come across on things, especially nowadays, is it's not so much of, hey, you did a good job on this. There's one thing that I would basically go through and like to put down and say, yep, this is where, you could do a little bit better, or think about maybe, hey, this might be an improvement for your team directly from that piece of it as well. But don't go on there and be like, terrible, drinking, when you don't even know that. You have no idea if that individual had been during that night directly on that one too. So why are you even asking for that question, or why are you even bringing up that point when it's not even been validated or anything else in that one too? And that guy or gal, depending on who was announcing, could have been announcing like that all year, and that's just the style of the voice slash tone slash everything else. So that's one of my biggest pet peeves out there is people that take to social media platforms and complain about people directly that are helping out and assisting with a show. Don't do that. If you have something and if you do want to make a comment, my suggestion to you is don't make it publicized on a platform that's going to create negativity. Put it in, if you want to make a comment, go through and message the track or even call the track. A lot of them have numbers out there, and talk to somebody about it.
Good advice. And yeah, I was gonna say too, I enjoyed the announcer. It was a nice change of pace and very entertaining to listen to. I will say that. We haven't even got to the results yet, so I'll cover the results real quick. So they had 5 car classes there. Obviously, 29th annual WISSOTA classes, so it's a very prestigious event for all the classes in general. Kicked things off with the Midwest Modifieds, the number 16 of Jason Vandekamp. Is it Vandekamp or Van D Camp?
Vandekamp.
Vandekamp. We'll go with Vandekamp. He started up front, and the track was one lane for the Midwest Modifieds around the bottom. And usually when Jason Vandekamp starts out front, he's very tough to pass and tough to beat. So he got the win in the Midwest Modifieds. In the MWM Smackdown. That's what it was.
Thank you.
Then going on next into the Super Stocks. That's hard to do. DJ Keeler got the win. Track was starting to widen out just a little bit, but mainly around the bottom still. I know Shane Sabraski is one of the guys to watch, and he was trying to make that top side work, but he kind of got a little jumbled up on the restart, almost spun out in 1 and 2, and lost several spots. And unfortunately, there was not really a caution for him to catch back up. So DJ Keeler got the win in the super stocks. Did you want to add something, Jessup?
That was a stacked super stock field that night.
Yeah, it was.
Over
And I
half
think they
of
went
them
caution free because
They
Sabrowski
had
never
one
did
caution, I
catch up.
think.
had
They
one
had one?
caution. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you looked at the people involved, it was definitely a who's who. You had both the LaBurges, you had Sabrowski, you had DJ, you had Kurt Myers.
The two
I mean,
Canadians, Simpson and Chernosky.
Yep. So right there, that was half the field, and you had Carlson there as well. So it's definitely a very solid field of super stocks.
Yep, very good quality for the super stocks at Grand Rapids. And then that moved into the modifieds, which the modifieds is as a whole is very competitive. You got several veterans in the class, and you have some new faces that have come into the modified class that are really competitive, including Kennedy Swan, who led several laps of that race. And lap traffic became a factor, and yet she had the 7A of Shane Sabrowski chasing her down. And was kind of a which lane do you choose to go on the lap cars, because they were racing for position side by side. And it ended up playing into Shane's favor, and he was able to get around the lap cars quicker than Kennedy was able to, and he went on to get the win in the modifieds. And that was the cars were all over the track. They were racing high, low, in the middle, all over the speedway. So that was a really fun race to watch in the modifieds. Then the Structural Buildings Challenge Series came out. They had a 40-lap race, and
Terrible.
Terrible race.
Worst
Just
race
ridiculously
I've
bad.
ever seen all year.
Yeah. So they had, I think, a caution early on. I can't remember exactly when, but they had like a long green flag run to the finish. And local Kevin Burdick, I think he's from Proctor,
Yep.
was leading the majority of that race on the top side. And he looked like he was checked out. And then, of course, lap traffic comes into play. And then it's like another battle, picking and choosing where the line is. And I'll kind of hand it off to you guys. Kind of who were you watching those last few laps of the late model race?
I was watching second because it was a great battle between Ryan Mickelson and Jeff Massengill in lap traffic, because Kevin Burdick kind of would get stuck behind lap traffic, and they would close in, and then he would find the lane and pull away. But I was watching second and third battle, and even fourth place was back there too. But that's who I was watching, because I was like, oh my gosh, it was a fantastic just race all around. But that's who I was watching.
Yeah, I was watching Michelson charge up through the field, and then he really started driving underneath everybody in corner 1 and 2, and he was able to keep it low off of 2 better than a lot of the other guys he was passing. And when he snuck underneath Massengill to get up to second, I was like, oh, well, that's different. You don't see a lot of people drive lower than Massengill on the track. And
Right.
And Massengill said in his winner circle interview, he basically said, yeah, I was messing around too much. And then I saw him go low, and that was my signal to say, better get down. And he locked her on the bottom, and he did what he had to do.
Yeah, so like going to that white flag lap, it was Burdick, then Massengill, and I believe Michelson.
No,
it was Burdick,
Michelson,
Massengill.
Massengill, because
He was
Massengill
third.
still had to try to get around Michelson to get back to second.
He was
Okay,
third
because
coming out
I
of
thought I
2.
remembered Michelson got around Massengill coming out of 2, and then Massengill got around him on 3 and 4.
He
I could
did
be wrong.
a couple laps prior, maybe, but
Yeah.
They were flip-flopping for position, which is why I was watching that so closely versus Burdick up front. But yeah, Massengill was third coming out of corner 2, going down the backstretch. He had a fantastic run out of 2, just dove it down low underneath Mickelson. And I think was it Mickelson in victory lane? Because they interviewed all the top 3. And I think he kept saying that he was watching the tires because people kept hitting into the tires.
Yep, they were.
And he kept just driving lower and lower because the tires kept getting pushed in.
People hate those old Uke tires because,
They're just annoying.
oh no, the old Uke ones are the big mining ones that would destroy a car in a second, but they wouldn't move.
No. And yeah, that finish ended up being within 48 thousandths of a second. Massengill got the win on the bottom in front of Kevin Burdick. And then Ryan Mickelson ended up in third. So that was a very, very fantastic finish.
I have to say, there's no scoreboard at Grand Rapids, so there's nothing to look at for how many laps to go, your top 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
I will say that's refreshing.
I honestly, it was kind of cool to see a lot of people actually utilizing the My Race Pass app and watching timing and scoring on there, because I my phone died, so I wasn't watching it, but I was like, oh my god, who won? I was like, because I didn't know who won. It was so close. There's 3 wide at the finish. It was amazing.
I thought it was more exciting without the scoreboard because people didn't know there's suspense and put drama into it.
I agree. I didn't know who won. And I was like, who won? Who won? And even the announcer waited.
I actually like the flagman too, because he did like signals for like halfway, 2 to go, was very descriptive with his flagging. It was really cool.
I like the symbol for 2 to go.
Flag.
I actually like that.
Where they go like side by side like this?
Yes, I like the 2 to go like this. I don't mind the flag, like the race flag, because I know a lot of series use that too, or a lot of flagmans do. But I do like the 2 flags together. I actually
You don't like
that.
the high raised green flag?
I don't mind it, but I feel like it's still like green. But it's like you're still racing green.
I like the pia.
Yeah.
John.
Okay.
Me too.
Yeah, so that was a great finish in the Challenge Series late models. Congrats again to Jeff Massengill for another Challenge Series win. And then that wasn't the last race of the night. The Pure Stocks finished things off with the number 72 of Kevin Baumgartner getting the win. And I don't think he's raced a whole lot this year. I think he's only had a handful of races. And that was he was very amped up in victory lane. His family was in the stands, kind of sitting a few rows below us, and they were cheering loud from the stands. And so that was a very good win for Kevin Baumgartner. So congrats to him in the number 72 Pure Stock for closing out the night at Grand Rapids for the WISSOTA Classic. And so that was our Friday night. So the Pelkeys kind of spent time with family for the remainder of the weekend, but John and I got to take in some racing, and we kind of met up at the Brown County Speedway for the final night of the Big Buck Nationals. John, what were your takeaways from the Big Buck Nationals?
So Saturday night was kind of interesting too. So they had a little bit over 100 cars. So they ran, basically they had the top 12 already into the show, like the first 6 did the redraw together, and then 7th through 12th did a redraw together. And then the rest of the drivers ran like a 12-lap, almost like qualifying race to determine where they would be at for starting lineups. So they did that throughout each one of the classes. It was definitely a warm day in Aberdeen. I think that was one of the themes over Labor Day weekend. It was a warm weekend as a whole, weather-wise, for that stuff. But no, track held up really well. They did the street stock feature event. They actually redid the track a little bit after the streets were done because the sun had started to set even farther. So they actually put more moisture into the track, and it held up really nice the rest of the night because Mason, they put a little bit of water down, I think maybe right around the bottom at one point, but that was about it that I saw.
Yeah.
Other than that, they really didn't do anything else with the track, other than that stuff with it directly, and it held up really good throughout the whole entire night. So racing wise was pretty good. It was warm, so there was definitely not as many people in the grandstand as what I was kind of expecting. So grandstands were definitely not as full as what I was expecting. But besides that, the show ran along, and yeah, it was a good way to end their season because it was a very exciting race at the end of it.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It was freaking humid in Aberdeen.
It was hot.
Yeah, it was. I don't blame. Like the fan count was definitely down from normal, and I guarantee the weather played a big factor in it. So kicking things off in the street stocks, that was kind of a wild race. If I remember correctly, there was a lot of cautions and
there was a lot of cautions.
There was a lot of mover and shakers towards the front. You include like Casey Usadis, Maria Brooksick, Andy Rosso, Chris Sayre, just to name a few. And through several cautions, there was a lot of lane changes. Like the track was changing constantly. Like it was started off pretty tacky and then it slicked off towards the end. And so the line was continually moving up. And so you never really knew which line to choose. And so congratulations to the 14 and Maria Brooksick for getting the Big Buck Nationals win. I want to say that, I don't know if it's her first Big Buck Nationals, but either way, very good win to add to her already stellar season in the street stocks. In the Midwest Modifieds, a guy that has been the bridesmaid for several races this year went 3 for 3 on the weekend. Lucas Rodin started up front. John, there was no catching him.
There was no
Saturday.
catching Lucas. No, there was absolutely no catching Lucas on Saturday. He won Thursday, he won Friday, and he won again Saturday. He was definitely the class of the field on Saturday night, especially when you start up front with Lucas. It's going to be tough to beat him.
Yeah, and I mean, they had a good showing from like the North Dakota cars. A lot of the guys we know, Brennan Wade, Jaron Webstead, they were kind of battling for the top 3 spots. I think Scott Hansen got in the mix and kind of ruined the top 3 of the finishing order. But Lucas Rodin with a Big Buck Nationals win. Nice weekend for him in the 19 machine. Now in your mods, that was also a pretty good race. Last year it was a battle of the sixes, and this year once again it was a battle of the sixes. Joseph Thomas and Dale Ames. They were going side by side throughout the majority of that race. Last year, it was the 6 of Dale Ames coming out on top in a photo finish. And this time, Joseph Thomas got redemption. And he was overcome with emotion in victory lane. I think if I remember correctly, in victory lane, he mentioned that you had this one circled on his calendar since last year, because I know he really was bummed that he came up short last year. And so that was a big win for him and the Ryan Torbenson racing team. Then in the super stocks, John, talk about the super stocks a little bit, because that was fun.
Yeah, so super stocks was a very interesting race. It started off by they took the green flag because they went 3 wide for the features. So they started off down the front straightaway and immediately had a red flag situation in an ambulance on the track. So Jordan Fisher got into they kind of just stacked up on the front straightaway. And he kind of jolted his shoulder a little bit and got put into the front concrete wall. Actually, his car didn't look bad at all. Personally, the car itself actually didn't look too bad, but he did have medical help come over and help him out with that as well to get him out of the car, and then they did take him over to the local ambulance to get him checked out because he was just you could definitely tell he was very slow moving and yeah, he was definitely favoring his shoulder. So his shoulder was
I talked to him in the pits afterwards, and it didn't look like a hard hit, but he said it hit so hard it bent the seat.
Yeah, so it was really weird. It was him, Louis Chavez was on the front straightaway with him, involved in that wreck, and yeah, so it's kind of an interesting wreck. It was one of those that didn't look too hard, but definitely caused damage. So yeah, so that was where that was at too. And then it even got more interesting throughout the feature as we had Caden, is it Capel? Is it Kappa? Kappa, sorry. Caden Campa ended up hitting one of the basically tires on the entrance of turn 3 and rolled twice. And it was basically one of those where he rolled up in the air and landed flat on the roof. So he rolled, he got out of the car, he was okay. He actually ran over. It was kind of funny. He ran over to Mark, one of his fellow drivers and kind of mentor a little bit, and went over to him and said, "Hey, I'm fine," and everything else in that one too. But yeah, so his car was pretty wrecked though. That car was definitely pretty destroyed. But as a whole though, as the race, it was a very good race up front because you had Trevor Nelson, who has just been on a tear. I mean, no matter where he goes, obviously he won the WISSOTA 100 last year. He's been on a tear, and you had Jeremy North, and Jeremy got the high line working and got up there and got to the lead. And Trevor tried to track him down multiple times, tried to go low on him, tried to even get up in front of him several times, was not able to do it. And Jeremy held on for the win for his first career Big Buck Nationals victory. So Jeremy's won a lot of races, but that was definitely one that the crowd went pretty. It was definitely a roar in the crowd after Jeremy won because just with how dominant Trevor has been down in the Aberdeen and South Dakota area.
Yep. Yeah, definitely a big win for Jeremy North. That was really great to see him in victory lane, and he was the track champion there. So a nice way to cap off the season there. And then unfortunately in the late models, we saw probably the worst race we've probably seen all year, John.
Definitely the worst race by far.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know how the late models keep putting on such bad races.
It's so confusing to me, but all kidding aside, they had 40-lap race. Jessup, did you want to add something?
If these guys aren't careful, they might get subbed out and they won't be a part of the invitational season anymore.
Yeah.
They may be only subjected to lower purses, single pays.
Well,
Yeah.
they
It
definitely
might not
weren't
be
adding to the
their
show
class
quality
anymore.
at all.
No, no. I'm very concerned about this.
I would be, especially after Aberdeen's race.
Oh man.
Absolutely.
Joking aside, they had 40 laps for the late models there to close out the Big Buck Nationals. And a couple of heavy hitters up towards the front again, 3 white starts. So I believe it was Cole Searing on the bottom to start.
No, Cole was in the middle.
Cole's in the middle.
Thomas Weisgram was on the bottom. Cole was in the middle, and Chad Becker was on the outside.
Okay. So 3 white starts, which actually the 3 white starts were relatively clean for the most part.
They were.
And it immediately turned into a battle between Searing and Becker. And so I believe Searing got out to the lead right away. And they were both running 2 unique lines. So Cole was mainly doing the top in 1 and 2 and going low in 3 and 4, while Becker was going low in 1 and 2 and high in 3 and 4. So it was
Correct.
So it was definitely kind of a battle to see who could hit their line consistently and get the better run each and every single lap. And like Cole was leading all the laps, but like Becker was right there side by side most of the race. They had a caution with, I believe, 8 or 10 to go. And so kind of figured like with the way they were going, like Cole was kind of going to hang on. The 14 of Eric Edwards, who races very sparingly nowadays, was right in the mix too, kind of watching these two duke it out and kind of throwing sliders. And he was probably waiting in the wings, like, come on, you guys, make contact so maybe I can kind of sneak past and get this win. So they got around to the white flag lap, still doing their same line swap in, got to 3 and 4. Cole went to the bottom like he was typically doing and missed the bottom by just a little bit. Gave Becker the run he needed, who absolutely floored out of 4 and got the win. And that was the only lap he led to get the Big Buck Nationals win.
Yeah. Cole essentially led 39 3/4 of a lap.
Yep.
Essentially, before Becker passed him right on turn 4, right across the start finish line. And yeah, really good race. I mean, the late models as a whole have been putting on some really good races this weekend.
Terrible.
I mean, yeah, just terrible, like, like doggone terrible stuff. But no, in all seriousness, I am super excited for invitationals upcoming because obviously the sites is this weekend a big late model show, and then you've also got the Northern Nationals happening as well this weekend. But then next weekend's the 100. Then you got Stampede, Pumpkin. I mean, late models I think are going to put on some really good shows at all those tracks.
Absolutely. Yeah, he floored out of 4 so hard that he ended up on the horse track almost backwards.
Yes. Yep.
That was quite the finish. The fans were on
It was
their
fun.
feet.
It was a really fun finish.
Yep.
And the crowd was on their feet.
Yep, it was great.
The crowd was definitely in it.
So that was Saturday night in Aberdeen, and we have just a couple of races left to recap. We'll kind of do these probably a little bit quicker. John got to go up to Nodak Speedway, while I went to Alexandria for the last night of their doubleheader. John, you want to quickly go over Nodak Speedway real quick?
Sure, yeah. So I'll go over my nuts. So I attended the last night of Motor Magic. Kudos to basically Minot's crew. The track was in really good shape throughout the night. They actually put a lot of moisture into the track because they knew it was going to be warm. They kind of had a little bit of the smoky haze, so that kind of helped out a little bit with direct sunlight on the track. And the track was really, really, really tacky to start off with. Where the sport mods were out there, they packed it in, they did the heat races, and they went pretty smooth from that perspective directly. So throughout the night, the theme was definitely hard driving. There was a lot of drivers that were going after it throughout the night. Obviously, it's one of the last shows up in Minot for the year, and so some of those drivers were going at it up there to try to pick up, a feature event win, top 5, a victory for Motor Magic champion, a lot of that situation. So, but no, the night started off with they started the features with the stock cars, and the stock cars went 15 laps clean and green, and Joe Flory picked up the feature win. He actually said in victory lane that he put brand new tires on the car. That was one of the first times this year he's put brand new tires on, and it picked up really well. And he was basically really unbeatable within that feature event. So congratulations to Joe. He also picked up the Motor Magic Championship as well. They brought out the Sport Compacts next, and within the Sport Compacts it was James Gilbert who picked up the feature win on the third night of Motor Magic. And congratulations to James, as was James. Chris Yost was right up there in second, so they had a really good battle during Motor Magic. And the slingshots, speaking of the slingshots, they had 20 slingshots on Sunday. They had, I believe, 21 on Saturday, and they had 20 on Sunday. And they split them into 2 features, so they ran 10 cars and 10 cars. And they had very little, damage / accidents happen or anything else like that with I believe Fisher was about the only driver that truly had a problem and just stopped on the front straightaway towards the bottom of the wall. So, but no, in the slingshot division, it was really, really, really comforting to know with how they were running because Hudson Mann won the first feature in the 195 machine. So congratulations to Hudson. He's got a really nice looking car too. So he won the feature on the first one. And then Brooks won the second one. So Brooks was the winner of the second junior slingshot race. And it's really nice to see because the car count for the slingshots has been increasing, especially over on the western side of North Dakota. And they're increasing in car counts, they're increasing in talent. And it's a really, really growth for the future of racing because those are your junior drivers that are going to get into the future racing divisions. And it sounds like based on some of the people I was talking to on Sunday over in Minot that a lot of those slingshot drivers are considering, running like Williston for the basically fall roundup that's coming up here in a couple weeks, Jamestown for the Stampede. So they do have a couple of bigger shows upcoming too. And I believe down in Dickinson, they're going to run them next weekend during the harvest as well and during the Richard Jordan Memorial. Your next class on the track after that was your sport mods, and they had problems getting going. That feature took a while. Just a lot of hard driving in that feature event. Good news is it wasn't really a lot of like terminal damage equipment. Most of it was, hey, maybe I've got a tire rod bent or something else happened on there too. The biggest one that happened was that Sean Keena, who actually was moving his way through the field, it came through the end of a consi, worked his way up to like sixth, seventh, or eighth. He was in that battle right around there, and he grenaded a motor to where they red flagged it because his car was basically up in flames a little bit. So I actually saw Sean in the grandstands after that. I said, hey, can you try not to like blow up so much or try to create so much damage? And jokingly, and he said, yeah, he said that motor just went up in a basically it was like black smoke even coming out of it, which we very seldom ever see. So he blew that up on that one too. And I said, well, I said that's kind of a tough way to end the season. He's like, oh, I've got another motor. I'll have it in this next week, so I'll be at some more specials upcoming here in the next couple weeks. So I was like, perfect. So he'll be on there. But Rich Pavlicek ended up picking up the win on Sunday. He also won on Saturday. So congratulations to Rich Pavlicek. And Gabe Deshaw was right there in second. I believe Gabe picked up your Motor Magic Championship. In your hobby stocks, that was another class that just had a lot of carnage throughout the night, just a lot of beating and banging. But it was Denzel is it Rayner? Is his last
Diesel
name?
Rainer.
Diesel Rayner. Sorry.
Yep.
Diesel Rayner ended up picking up his back-to-back win because he also won on Saturday. So Diesel picked up both the wins on Saturday and Sunday, and he passed Brenner Grinstead basically coming to the white flag. So really good battle up front for that win between those two drivers. And Max Beater, have to give a shout out to him. Max started up there in fourth. He dropped all the way back to like 16th because he got high through turns 1 and 2, and they watered the track a little bit during some of the feature events, and he was just kind of up there in the slime, and he worked his way back up to third. So congratulations to Max on a really nice run, and Kevin Smith right there out of Alberta running in fourth and finishing in fourth as well. And then your mods came out next. They had 26 mods start the A main event. Really good battle up front right away between Sean Strand, Drew Christensen, and Aaron Turnbull. And tough break for Strand and Christensen because Christensen came through the middle. Sean cut across him as they went into turns 1 and 2, and Turnbull was on the bottom. I don't think they knew that Turnbull was right there on the bottom between those two drivers. And they created contact. Those three kind of slid into turns 1 and 2. Sean went sideways, was right in the path of Tyler Wagner. Tyler hit him, had nowhere to go. So those two drivers had pretty wrecked cars directly. But that kind of opened up the door for further drivers to enter the front because that also ended Drew Christensen's night, which Drew, I hope he gets the car back together because he is going down to Super Nationals here this week. So he'll get that put back together. But that allowed Turnbull and then Travis Hagen, the dark horse, to come into play. And Travis picked up his third win as he passed Aaron on the bottom, coming out of turn number 4. As Aaron got too high through turns 3 and 4, and Travis was able to get around him, and then picked up the win, his third one, and the championship in Motor Magic. And interesting little tidbit, he's going to Super Nationals.
Yep.
So he made that call, him and McKinsey made that call this morning when after they won, they're like, yep, ran well. Dad's down there already, and they headed down as well. So, yep, so he's going to run Super Nationals here upcoming on Wednesday and Thursday. So, good luck to Travis down there. He's had a hell of a season. He's in the top 10 for national points and just having a really good run. So, the driver I have to give a shout out to as well in the mods is Gabe Deshaw. Gabe was driving Erica Logenschlager's car. and he started that feature event in 10th and finished 4th in the IMCA Modifieds. So congratulations to Gabe as well for a very nice run, because he was running 3 cars on Sunday and Saturday. He ran his stock car, his sport mod, and his modified. So congratulations to Gabe on a very nice performance over there in Minot. But yes, Minot, that was our recap from Sunday, and it was nice to get back up there as they closed out their season.
Excellent. Awesome. Thanks for the recap at Nodak Speedway. I'll quickly recap the second night of the doubleheader in Viking Speedway. Very quick night. We were done at 9:30. Kind of a highlight to their regular classes there. And so they had just like a little elevated payout, and kind of nice to see a lot of travelers coming from across the state of Minnesota and several from Wisconsin. And so kind of added to the fields pretty nicely, and kicked things off with some great racing in the Midwest Modifieds. Came down to a photo finish. A driver that I don't know super well, the 44X from Zimmerman, Mark Froelich. He started, I believe, 8th and got around Travis Ingebretson coming to the checkered flag in photo finish to get the win. I don't know if he's won a whole bunch of features, and so it's a great win for him. I mean, definitely did not expect that to kick things off in Alexandria. So that's how the night started for feature action. Street Stocks
Mason,
oh, go ahead.
Mark used to run in the WISSOTA Midwest Mods, also WISSOTA Street Stocks back in the day, and he was a huge regular over at Princeton when Princeton was WISSOTA, and was always in contention for track championships over there, and used to run the WISSOTA 100 quite a bit as well back in when it was in Cedar Lake back in the Midwest Modified. So yeah, so he's got some years of experience, but it looks like he's coming back into racing more this year. He's still been around, but he hasn't been running a whole lot from like a volume of shows throughout each year. So
Gotcha. And honestly, that's like, I think it was one of the first times I've seen him at Viking this year. So having a new guy come to a big half mile and put on a show like that, kudos to you, Mark. Then the Street Stocks, they were putting on some great racing at the half mile this weekend and all year. They had several fast cars there, including Justin Vogel, Nick Trainer, Colby Keel from Wisconsin, and also Andrew Hansen from Wisconsin. Colton Brower had one on Saturday night, and he was tracking down the Wolverine for the majority of that race on the bottom. Kind of showed his line a little too early, and a caution came out, and Justin kind of stole that line away and held on to get the feature win, which in turn, with events happening over the weekend, vaulted Justin Vogel into the national points lead for WISSOTA Street Stocks. So that battle is really heating up for the top 4 or 5 drivers in that division. So that's going to be fun to watch over the next few weeks. Short trackers was clean and green. The 22 of Matthew Dittman, who's been he's been racing quite a bit this summer with the short trackers and also with WISSOTA Hornets, and he got around Cole Campson and Kevin Wall early and held off those two to claim the win in the short tracker race. Super stocks, that was honestly a really good super stock race. Brandon Duhlman got out to lead right away. The one of Carter Rentz rocketed around him on the high side and looked like he was well on his way to a win until this little thing decided to come out. And without that, Carter probably could have won that race. And I feel bad for the Rents. They're avid watchers of this show. Heart goes out to them because Carter's finished second like 5 times at Alexandria this year. Had several different winners, but unfortunately Carter not able to get the win. Lost in a photo finish to the 17 of Ryan Castreba. Ryan had a really great weekend at Alexandria, kind of just stole that one in the last couple of laps. And so great win for Ryan. Heartbreak for the one at Carter Rents, but really great race in the super stocks. And then finishing out in the modifieds, had several cautions in that race, which kind of gave several chances for competitors to kind of track down the 5H of Brett Hoyam. He set sail right away, held off Justin Fleming to start with. And that 2X of Brady Gurris, who's been on a tear as the last few weeks, threw a slider on the last restart on the green-white checker, and it held off everyone else to get the feature win to finish off the weekend. So another race that was kind of stolen from a race-long leader. So kind of had to be key on those restarts and kind of timing of the cautions to kind of get out in the victory lane. And so, but great night at Alexandria. They've had a great season, and nice to kind of finish things off. A nice quick night on Labor Day weekend. And so that was the racing action from a busy and terrible racing weekend, but
just terrible.
Just terrible. I'm sure we have more terrible racing coming up this weekend, and so I'll turn it over to Mr. Dakota Dirt on what's upcoming next in the state of North Dakota.
Oh my goodness, race fans, if you want your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, recaps, information, weather forecast, and much more, you have to check out Dakota Dirt. It is so much more than just a racing website. They have a social media platform. You can check them out on their Facebook page. And also, once again, check them out at dakotadirt.org, as they always have interesting tidbits of information out there. So once again, race fans, if you want your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, and much more, check out Dakota Dirt.
Thanks, John. It's a busy week here, Mason. We gotta keep an eye on everyone going down south to Boone, and we've got a list over on Dakota Dirt that's pinned to the top of the page. We will be adding a few people here probably tomorrow after work. And we'll do a brief recap, hopefully each day, for where people finished and when, if they are racing each day. So that would be kind of a nice thing for all of our race fans who are wanting to keep an eye on everyone. But other than that, back home, we got a lot of good racing here this coming week. And I kind of just took a broad approach for the month. We put all the race dates down. So let's look at this week. This week we got the last night of the NLRA over on Thursday night at the River City Speedway, as it is the prelude to the Johnny. This usually is a big night where you see a lot of the invading drivers, the outsiders, the travelers, whatever you guys want to call them. They use it kind of as a test and tune night and get them all set up for the big qualifying Friday night and then the big show on a Saturday night. So that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday over at the River City Speedways. Definitely going to be a can't miss show if you're a WISSOTA late model fan. Then looking at Friday night, it is night one of the Sauerkraut 500 over at the Tri-County Speedway in Wishick, and definitely a small town, big race, big atmosphere filled to that event. And I will definitely be trying to make my way over there Friday night, so that'll be a fun time for that. Two complete shows. The WISSOTA Street Stocks just had their purses bumped, and that will be a nice payout for any drivers daring to take on a tricky quarter mile at the Wishick Tri-County Speedway. Saturday is another interesting night. Night two of the Tri-County Sauerkraut 500. It just seems weird to say that, but the Sauerkraut 500 night number two will be there as well. So another great night of racing there. It also is night number one at the Thunder Mountain race year-end special. It is a 2-night show, so that'll be Saturday and Sunday. So that's the 9th and the 10th up at with our friends at Thunder Mountain. And then it is night one of the Richard Jordan race over at the Southwest Speedway, and I believe all the classes besides NX Legends are unsanctioned, so they're trying to see
Correct.
if they can
Correct.
gather a few more of the Western drivers to come over and race, and it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Night number two of that will be on Sunday as well, and that is when the big payoff for the Richard Jordan portion of that event will be taking place. So plenty of racing going on this week, plenty of tracks to choose from. You could go east, you could go south, you can go west, you can go north, and you'll have some sort of racing to be watching. And if you don't feel like you going out and supporting and you want to remotely cover things, you can definitely go and watch Dakota Dirt, as they will be updating the IMCA Super Nationals for those who cannot watch it on pay-per-view or watch it in attendance. Good luck to all of our drivers and fans. Please be safe this weekend. There will be a lot of traveling going on. Just take your time, leave a little earlier, And for God's sakes, don't, I don't think we should have to say this, but don't drink and drive. Get a friend, get an Uber, just be smart. We'd rather see you guys the next week at the race track rather than seeing you in either the weekly, um, you know, police roundup reports or in the obituaries. So don't do that, okay?
Good advice. Good advice. Thank you for the update on what's upcoming next in the state of North Dakota. Outside of North Dakota, there isn't a ton taking place. There's just a couple events kind of taking place around the region. It starts off on Friday, one-off race down in Wilmer at the KRA Speedway. I think that's their last race of the year. The Corn Cup Nationals is taking place on the 9th and 10th at the Buffalo River Speedway. And I believe, I think Race Saver Sprints are a part of those 2 nights. And so that'll be a nice little treat to kind of finish off their season or one of their last couple races. So 9th and 10th, you can check that out there. Believe the Northern Nationals are taking place this weekend over at the Gondik Speedway. So a lot of the Eastern folk will be kind of venturing out there, and that's going to be a busy week. It looks like they got racing the 6th through the 9th. So, I mean, they got a busy week over there. So another big event to check out. The Bemidji Speedway is hosting the MPH Invitational for the Pure Stocks, Mod 4s, and Hornets. So basically kind of their version of the WISSOTA 100, giving them some spotlights. So I'm expecting a nice field of cars for those 3 classes. And I think it's kind of a nice venue for them, being a smaller track for those classes, and gives them a little bit of spotlight. And there's a lot of local cars in those divisions there. And so encourage you to check out that as well. And I believe Madison Speedway is going to be running on Sunday, the 10th as well. So not a ton taking place outside the state of North Dakota. It seems like we got all the racing for the most part, but it gets really busy going through the next week for a lot of the WISSOTA folks. But that's what's coming for racing this next week. And with that, we'll go into our white flag and give a shout out to Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro, who had a busy weekend up at Motor Magic in Minot. The number 12S IMCA modified driver. If you see Isaac the rest of the season, go say hi to him in the pits. One of the nicest people to talk to. His family's great. Got great snacks and food at his trailer. Thank you so much, Isaac, for supporting us on the Track Packers this season. Going into wins of the week, who's got wins of the week that they want to share?
Well, who wants to go first?
I think I will go first.
Okay, John.
Yeah, I'm just on the poll, so I'll go first.
Sure.
So, okay, my first one of the week. I have to give a huge shout out to Travis Hagen, the dark horse, picking up 3 wins in a row this weekend up at Nodak in Minot, and then also now converting, or I should say, changing his schedule a little bit and going down to Boone with the car to go race down there. And also he's on top 10 in national points for the mods. I think that's going to be an awesome experience. And I hope Travis does really well down there, as he's had a hell of a season and just has been a really, really, really good driver the last 2 years in that IMC modified class, especially over the Dakota Classic modified tour as well. So good luck to Travis. Congratulations this past weekend. So that is my first win of the week. My second win of the week is going to go out to one of our veteran drivers out there. So Marlon Seidler. Have to give a huge shout out to Marlon, as Marlon took a brand new car down to the East-West Clash with that Vanderbilt chassis. He had a very, very nice weekend with it as well, because he picked up the win on night 1 down there on Friday, picked up the win on night 2. He said, boy, the car's working pretty well down there during that period of time. And then on night number 3, Marlon was 3rd on night 3 during down there at the East-West Clash. So congratulations to Marlon. Brand new car, brand new different setup, and it looked like it worked out pretty well down there this past weekend. So good job to Bubba and Marlon. That was my second win of the week. And my third win of the week has to go out there to the Nightmare, Lucas Rodine, because Lucas ran 4 races this past weekend. He won all 4. He picked up all 3 wins down in Aberdeen. and he also picked up the win last night over at Devil's Lake. So congratulations, Lucas Rodin, as he's currently right now second in national points, and there's a lot of points between him and Zach Benson. I think right now it's over 150 point differential.
Yep.
But Lucas is having a very nice season once again and coming on really strong now towards the end of the year during invitational. So he was kind of like laying in the weeds a little bit. I felt like kind of in the middle of maybe like June, July timeframe, just wasn't as strong as what I typically see from Lucas. But as soon as August hit, it seems like he has just been on a roll, and especially now going into September.
Lucas Rodin, yeah, getting towards the front on these bigger money shows and bigger prestige shows?
Right? That never happens.
No, not at all. Nice set of 3 wins. John, who wants to go next?
I am second, so I will gladly go second. So first one I'm going to do is Kyle Peterlin, as he swept the Labor Day shootout. That is a very daunting. We just had a really close lightning.
No, that's
strike.
thunder.
I
That's
know, but
thunder.
I just saw it outside the window.
Yeah, I know. I do too.
Yeah,
anyways,
when I saw your
Kyle-
look, I'm like, that must have been a lightning strike.
Yeah, it just
it
it's
was.
thundering up here too. But
So-
by the way, but let's back up
Mason.
here. Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you just a little bit.
Sorry.
So Becca, you can't see thunder. You can only hear thunder.
Yeah, I know. But look at that. Mason. Just doing Mason things. Anyways.
Oh yeah.
Not even
Bubble.
close.
Bubble.
I will say though,
Mason.
I'm very surprised that Mason kept his powers in check this past weekend and we had good racing.
Yes.
It was
Anyways,
freaking hot. That's-
anyways, my first one goes to Kyle Peterlin. Definitely sweeping the Labor Day shootouts, no easy task, as it is known that if you're not near the front or in the front row, it's tough to win, just because with the heat and that many cars on the track out throughout the night, it tends to get a little rough to win if you're further back. So hats off to him. Definitely a great feat that he did. Second person that I would give is I'm gonna say Dan Ebert. Dan Ebert definitely wasn't a person that I was expecting to see at Proctor, but when he showed up, it was definitely let's point at that guy, because he's definitely got a good chance of winning, and he definitely did a good job of winning. So hats off to him. He had a great opening night to the invitational season. And the third person I have to give it to has got to be Kyle Anderson. I mean, I have upset Mason.
Can't believe you took that one. How
Why
could
would
you?
he went from
I
like,
almost took it from you, Mason, but I left it. But I'm so glad Jessup did it instead.
why? Well, why he marched through the fields down in Aberdeen, and he what's the did he go from 23rd?
23rd to first.
23rd to first.
That's 22 spots. That's a heck of a feat.
Yep.
So he had back-to-back nights where he marched through the fields, but hats off to you, bud. You definitely earned that win, and going 22 spots is insane. So
Yeah.
definitely tip of the cap to you.
And then Jessup. Then he finished in the winner's circle
Yep.
again over at Casino on Sunday.
Yep. He had himself a very positive weekend, not only for the bank account, but also for the points for WISSOTA. So he'll be making a late season charge here. Where he'll end up, nobody knows, but he could definitely be a player here.
Yeah, I think the latest point tally was he was 6th in national points.
Yeah.
So definitely still room to move up. So yeah, definitely a nice set of 3 wins, and I am very upset that you took that one from me.
Why?
Why,
Who
Mason?
went
Why?
first?
It's okay, Mason. You'll get over it.
I'll
Yeah.
get over it. So since I'm third, before
Ooh,
Becca
that's even
takes any,
closer.
Again, crazy lightning right now.
yeah.
Yep.
Probably gonna be some thunder later. Oh,
Just
there it
power
is.
soon.
There it is. There it is.
Boy, you're getting surrounded right now.
Was
So
that a
I'll go
boom,
next on my
Becca?
3 wins of the week. I will start off by going to another event that took place this weekend, the Mighty Axe Nationals, and give a shout out to the Van Mills. Chris in the 40 machine, the sport mods, got the Mighty Axe last night on Sunday. I forgot to check if I don't believe he won on Saturday, but I got to check on the other Van Mill real quick. But Rob Van Mill also won the Mighty Axe Nationals on Sunday night. So that was kind of a nice little celebration they had on Sunday. Looks like Rob finished 4th on Saturday at Brainerd. So very good weekend for the Van Mills. A nice kind of finish off their weekend. Rob came up just a little bit short in the championship at Red River Valley Speedway. He got the feature win, but just was, I think, a point short of Andrew Jokum. So big win for the Van Mills this weekend. My second win of the week is going to go to the Slingshots at Nodak Speedway, just with the nice car count they had. Very encouraging to see the youth get involved in the sport. And I know there's been a lot of dialogue over the last week or so, or last day, just kind of like giving more opportunities for the young racers, because ultimately the more youth we get involved right away, the more they're going to kind of trickle into the bigger car classes. We see that the kart club here in Fargo, I think with the Slingshots, is kind of the same thing. We get them more opportunities to get behind the wheel, more likely they're going to kind of stick with racing for the rest of their careers. And so big win to the Slingshots at Nodak. And my third final win goes to the Brown County Speedway. They did a benefit for Luis Chavez. We kind of mentioned him in our recap. He's going through some cancer treatments upcoming, and they did a nice little pig out Friday night in the pits, and they did a past helmet on Friday as well. And so it was a nice little celebration in the pits, kind of part of the big weekend for the Big Buck Nationals. So a nice gesture by the Brown County Speedway and everyone involved to kind of show support for one of their local racers who's going to be going through some treatment here in the off season. So those are my 3 wins of the week. Becca, go ahead and take us home with your wins.
All right. I'm kind of surprised that Jessup and John didn't steal one of my wins, but I'm going to start off with Daryl Nelson, who was our feature winner at the Silver 1000. What people may not realize about that particular feature win was he was admitted into the hospital the day before for dehydration. So he's taken by ambulance and was admitted to the hospital. Thankfully, he was okay, rehydrated, and he came back and just kick some butt. Okay, Jessup, what's up?
Oh, you could have bet. I forgot to add that Harry had some. Go ahead.
So okay, so that was my first one of the week. Daryl Nelson, who was taken by ambulance to the hospital for dehydration, came back just fine the next day, won the Silver 1000, one of the very first big invitational race of the season. That's my first one of the week. My second one of the week goes to Harry Hansen, because Harry Hansen suffered a nasty wreck about a week or so ago. Has been healing from some broken ribs. Finished second at the Silver 1000. He led laps at Grand Rapids, but then a brand new car, as Jessica mentioned in his recap, they made a very slight adjustment from heats to the feature. He led some laps early, fell through the pack, finished 11th, but finished second at Hibbing. Overall, solid weekend for Harry Hansen in a brand new race car with some bruised or broken ribs. So he's on the mend and doing very well despite all of that. My third win of the week goes to Sean Strand. He went up to Motor Magic this past weekend, raced both mod and stock car. And stock car has kind of been a surprise thing for him. He's raced it here and there. And he picked up a victory in the stock car on night 1 of Motor Magic. And I think it's a fantastic win of the week for him, because he hasn't really raced the stock car a whole lot this year, other than maybe a race in Fargo Mod Tour. And I'm glad to see that he got his very first stock car win this past weekend at Motor Magic. So congratulations to Sean Strand for picking up the win in a car that he's raced here and there. And I think it's amazing. So congratulations to him, Harry Hansen, and Daryl Nelson.
Excellent 3 wins to kind of finish out our episode number 27. Just a couple of finishing items. Once again, go check out our fantasy league, the Track Packers Pick'em. We want to see as many people as possible to get involved with that. Just a simple picking each NFL game. No confidence points, no nothing. Just pick who's going to win each game each week. Don't forget, because you're going to fall behind, and you don't want to fall behind to any of the four of us, because we will give you a little bit of grief. But with that,
No, not us.
yeah,
Never.
we never give anyone any grief.
No.
But with that, that'll do it for episode number 27 of season 2 for the Track Packers. Be sure, as always, to like, share, and comment on our videos, whether you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, or subscribe on the podcast form. Spotify, Google, and Apple is where you can find us, and give us a 5-star review. So just to read it on the show. Thank you to our sponsors.
Somebody give us a 5-star review. I want to read some stuff.
Oh my God, things are happening outside.
We
It's
gotta go,
crazy.
Mason. We're about to be blown up here.
I was gonna let Gordy outside to go potty, and I was
He
like,
is
you
not
know,
going outside right
I'm
now.
not gonna let him go outside. No.
Nope. Well, thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness and Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro. A lot of big invitational racing taking place this weekend. We hope to see you out there packing the track.